areas and other wards. They've been very informational, and we've been able to be very successful in those town hall meetings. So this one is the first one that we've had since the pandemic, and although things look different and we're all spread out, and those that are not speaking are wearing a mask, you see hand sanitizer on every table, and that's just kind of where we are, and that's the new norm. But we're still excited to be here to answer any questions or field any concerns that you might have. So with that being said, if you have a topic that you would like to bring up, just raise your hand, and Ms. Kim Blue has the microphone. She'll bring that to you. If you look around the room, you'll see several of our city team here. The purpose of them being here with us tonight is to be able to answer any question that comes up or to direct you into the direction that we can get that answer. All right, so do we have anybody that wants to address the council or concerns? Mr. Corum?
In a city council meeting, there was a discussion about trying to do incentives for bringing in development. I'm all for it. I agree we need some more development in town. It just seems like we're creating more areas that are less likely to be developed. I understand the proposed areas are in floodplains or farmland. That's the main argument. A lot of property that's been developed here and elsewhere had been farmland at some point. That can change. I believe we're just a little too short-sighted. The Boy Scout camp, who knows if the Boy Scouts are going to exist in another couple of years. Going through bankruptcy currently, who knows? At that point, Boy Scouts of America ceases to exist. The stipulations for the Barney Q. Hopkins property, what happens at that point? I don't know, Mr. Evans, if you have any ideas on what any stipulations on that property would be going forward once the Boy Scouts of America didn't exist, if that were to happen. That's prime property that could be developed in some form or another. There are lots of other questions as far as the properties on either side of the neighborhood on Brown Badgett Loop. Those are narrow areas of proposed mining. If the mine would be 800 feet deep at that point, with the angle of repose, which my understanding is close to 20 degrees, those areas are disqualified from even being mined in the first place, so why are they even showing up on a proposed map? There are just so many questions and so little areas, so few areas that would possibly not be used in the future for development. I understand currently a lot of those places are not applicable, but that's also currently and not looking on further in the future. So I know I've spit out a lot of information there and a lot of questions, but any of those that can be answered, I'd appreciate it.
So we'll start with the beginning, and we appreciate you being here, Mr. Corum. In the very beginning, the statement was the business incentives. This has nothing to do with the business incentive topic that came up. That is a completely separate topic. That is a company that is looking into our community. It's looking to build a $14 million investment on already zoned commercial property that's been for sale for many years and is not developed right now. So that's what that incentive is for those businesses. The mining piece of it, and I'll have to refer to Joe on what happens for the Barney Q, but that's not tied to Boy Scouts of America. That's tied to our local youth organizations. So whether the Boy Scouts of America files bankruptcy and is no longer in existence, there'll still be some sort of youth organization such as the Boy Scouts here, the different troops that are here in Hopkins County and Madisonville, that will still be able to use that facility. That property out there is, in fact, restricted to the use for the youth programs for the Boy Scouts currently. And so when you look at the development piece of that particular property, it will not ever have a commercial or residential use for that area. The other properties that you look at, 95% of the properties, well, I want to take that back. I stand corrected. There is some farmland that is in the very northern part of the city limits that is owned by the Rudd family and the Renfro family. And so they own both of those farms. Those farms are zoned agricultural and would have to be changed, and zoning can be changed for those areas. But those property owners are asking for that coal to be mined. Any mining that would be done that is proposed has to, what right now, kind of the discussion that we've heard from the council, because this is 100% a council decision, what we're hearing that the council has kind of landed on in open discussions is that they would like for the topside owner, so the property owner that owns the ground on top, have a say in whether or not the coal mines can mine that property. So in the county, so anything that's in the gray that you see shaded, that area is all in the county, and there are no restrictions. So if whether you live on top or not, if the mines want to mine underneath it and they own the mineral rights, or if somebody else owns the mineral rights, they're going to go in there and mine it. What the proposal is for in the areas that you see that are not shaded, they're left open in the yellow outline. Those are the areas that they are proposing to come into the city. So you can see that it's a very minimal amount of area that will be disturbed inside the city limits. That is area that they're already going to be mining on the county side, and they recognized that the areas that they've picked are areas that either the property owner is wanting the coal mined, or it's in a floodplain that they're working with the topside owner on whether or not that they can get that lease. But you'll see that there's quite a bit of restrictions or floodplain or non-developable properties.
I'm aware that is the situation as far as the larger swaths, especially on that northern side, you've got your mineral right and topside owners that are agreeable to it. It's just the city had that stipulation for a reason, and because the county did not, the city eventually realized, hey, we've got a lot of property that has a lot less value because it has been undermined. A lot of the southern part of town has some really nice homes on it that sell for a lot less than homes on the northern side of town do. And that's largely because, I don't think it has that much to do with the median going down South Main Street. It has more to do with the fact that it's undermined. So why would we kneecap ourselves by undermining property that is city limits currently? I understand, it's for the hope for 4% of all the coal mined, that value would go back to the city.
Yeah, the city doesn't get any of that, by the way. We don't receive any of those royalties from, I know that's how it was reported.
Okay,
but we do not receive that. That goes to the property owners themselves or to the mineral right owners.
Right.
But the areas, again, that you see on your map, the majority of those are undevelopable properties. So if they're already in a floodplain, or they have a major ditch that runs through it. We do have a property that is developable, but the property owner is here tonight, and they're requesting that their coal be mined. Their property actually splits both city and the county, so they're wanting their coal mined, and they own I'm assuming, and maybe I shouldn't assume, but they have the mineral rights and the topside rights, so that person is wanting what belongs to them mined. But again, it's not a developable piece of property for us to be able to build houses on. We can't build a house in the middle of a ditch like we used to many, many years ago, which has caused several problems that we've found long term. But if you look at the majority of that, other than what's at the very northern part, those are two farms that are owned by the Rudd family and the Renfro family. And what we're hearing from Alliance Coal is that they're wanting that property mined. and that's a private property owner. Now, what the council has made very clear is that they don't want coal mining in the neighborhoods on the north end of town, nor do they want it anywhere else in town. So any approval that the council would make would be specific to what you see on the map with GPS coordinates is listed in the agreement with Alliance Coal. Am I correct with that?
Not till the map that you have before you is merely Warrior Coal's proposal. The city of Madisonville may agree with you that certain areas that they have identified are inappropriate. I think it's interesting that you mentioned the angle of repose. At the very last city council meeting, those exact words were used by me in trying to educate the council that you can't just set an arbitrary limit. You need to stay away 100 feet from an occupied dwelling, which is what Hanson's ordinance currently provides. We need to make sure that the angle of repose is in fact taken into consideration when we establish our outer limits of mining. But another thing that I'd like to correct the misinformation. There's been some misinformation that Warrior Coal is opening a new mine in Hopkins County. You and I know that is not the case. There will not be any surface intrusion within the city limits of Madisonville, even under their scenario. This is just an extension of an already ongoing mining operations.
And I understand that most of what is shown is undeveloped. A lot of it, it seems to me, is potentially developable. Now that is all in the future, but especially this angle of repose, I'm really anxious to see where the lines would actually be once we figure out where that would, what that offset should be. I mean, that angle, and if you're starting 800, 700, 600 feet below the surface, coming at that angle, I mean, we're talking offsets of more than 100 feet at that point, it seems like. I mean, so it, yeah, anyhow, those are my more than 2 cents, but thank you very much.
We appreciate you being here, and thank you for speaking up and addressing the council with those concerns. Anybody else? Mr. Markle? Let her bring that mic to you if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Jerry Markle, and I'm a landowner in the city limits in the county. Okay.
Yeah, I guess so.
I own the minerals on 33 acres in the county, and I own the minerals and the surface on 16 acres in the city. And it just so happens my background is mining. And the depth of this coal is 700 to 800 feet. The likelihood of subsidence is very, very slim. If it ever did subside, you probably would never know it. It would be a quarter inch or so. And I mean, your sheetrock guy's hasn't got that good a tolerance. So the likelihood of subsidence is minimal, very minimal. What's subsided in the south end of the county, Mr. Corm's talking about, that's all been less than 100 feet. Madisonville Country Club's got subsidence at 65 and 70 foot deep. The bypass road out here, that coal, they drifted into a hillside on the other side, on the south side of the bypass road, and that was mined out. That's probably 60 feet.
That's the Earlington Cutoff Road, is that?
So it's going to break down at that. And when they get to 700, 800 feet deep, they can't take about 50% of the coal anyway. It'll crush the coal pillars out sideways. So they're not going to take a big amount of coal. In some places, like out here, they got 75, 80% recovery. Here they're not going to get for 50% recovery or less. But my question, what I'm hearing is, are you saying if this coal's mined, it becomes non-development property?
What I'm saying is that a lot of the areas that have been identified on the map are undevelopable properties. So they are in floodplains, or they have the ditch that runs right down through the middle of them. And I did say that there were some areas that were developable, but for the most part, they're undevelopable properties.
Well, I got a question, Mr. Evans. Joe, if they condemn this property, they don't have to compensate?
No, I think you misinterpreted the mayor's comments. We're not saying that if the property has been undermined, it will forever be unsuitable for residential or commercial development. It'll stand whatever the test that the market will bear. You can utilize the property any way you want to. I think his general statement was the only reason the council is even considering adopting a resolution that would permit minimal mining within the city limits is that most of the properties that have been identified are not readily identifiable as marketable developable properties. We certainly don't mean to slanderize your property whatsoever. You as the property owner can develop it any way you want to. There will be no restrictions imposed by the city of Madisonville that will impact the marketability of your property, other than ordinance that says that coal cannot be mined without the express written permission of the service owner. If you're willing to give that, you get the benefit of it, you get the downside of it, if there are any downsides.
Well, is that condemnation without compensation?
We're not condemning it. Condemnation only occurs when you cannot make any useful use of your property. We're not restricting that at all.
Well, I'm not affected by that anyway,
No.
because I'm on the service center.
It only becomes condemned and subject to the city having to pay for the taking if the property owner has no useful use of the property following the action taken by the city. Nothing the city's doing will impact that at all.
But in summary, I'm in favor of mining coal. I'd like to receive the revenue from it. Spend the revenue in Madisonville. That's no business person, so the money stays here. I think we need guys working. It's no opportunity to keep them working when jobs are tough right now, especially the coal industry, and beaten down by all factors. So I just say I'm in favor. Hope the council will pass it. These areas should be mined.
All right, thank you, sir. Anybody else have any comments or questions, or is there any comments or questions other than mine? Everybody have their piece, and we've got somebody right over here.
When will it be decided? When we're going to find out if it's going to follow through the transition? I live in Oakwood.
If you hold your mic up.
Yes, sorry. I live in Oakwood Lane, so I purposely bought the house knowing it wasn't undermined. I moved here 2 years out of state, so hearing this kind of like makes me a little sad. I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. That's one of the houses I chose that didn't have that happen. I'm just wondering when this was proposed, when will it be decided, and whether to say we really have it in it.
So on the map, as far as the city goes, there's not any area that is on. I don't know about the county side. I don't know. Are you in the city limits? Or are you? So inside the city limits, if you see Oakwood Lane on the map, you'll see just both on both sides of the street there. The blue area is not mined area. It's just the area
So
to the
I'm
south.
right by that pond by Otto. I'm literally, Otto's right above me. He's in the top of Oakwood, and I'm right there at that pond.
Okay, so that is showing in the blue area, correct?
She's actually showing, where, is that where you're showing?
Yes, ma'am.
She's showing, she's right there on the yellow from the purple.
That's what it looks like. So it looks like I could be wrong, Otto. I don't know if I'm the Otto with that. My pond is right there.
So I don't, can you?
There's the pond that is in the county that you see, well, yeah, towards the end of Oakwood, the east side of Oakwood Lane, There's a pond that's in the county in the proposed mine section. The Bidwells here who are speaking live right on that pond. So their house is essentially on the yellow line, which again is just the proposal,
Yes.
but they are concerned that they are city residents, and essentially they're, on this proposed map, they're being shown on the line itself.
So Otto, looking at your house, is it directly across the street?
Directly behind.
Directly behind you?
Yeah, your driveway runs just north of my home.
So the map doesn't show that it's going to be affecting your property where your residence is at. However, this map is taken at probably 2,500 feet. So when you dial that in, and what we would do is we would request, if that's a concern, we would request that Alliance Coal can dial that in a little bit more to get a better
That would be great if I could find
better
out,
look
yes.
at that. And then what the council's discussions have been is that even if it is, you have to sign off allowing the mines to mine underneath your property.
Okay.
So if you do not sign off, then they're not allowed to mine under your property. That's the discussion that they've been having. And nothing has been written in an ordinance yet. They're working on drafting that ordinance, and we would anticipate that to happen probably September, to hear the first reading of the ordinance. But that's what we're understanding, is you as a property owner would have to sign off to allow them to mine underneath your property if your property is going to be affected.
So September.
So September.
Okay. I've got to keep on the neighbors. They're all, they actually notified us. We didn't even know. And they're on vacation, and the other one is right from the hospital. But we were all talking down there to the cul-de-sac, and they're all against it. So we're just trying to figure out what we need to give them since they can't be here. So we're trying to help them figure out too.
So it would be in the second meeting of the September meeting that would be open for public comments. Is that correct, Joe? So it would be the third Monday in September. And again, the way that the council is trying to protect the homeowners is that you have to sign to allow them to mine underneath your property, because we know that that's a concern. But everything that we're seeing on the map at this elevation is that it will not affect any residential properties other than Mr. Markham's. Is that correct, Jerry? So.
Can we get it dialed in to see where it's at then? Is there anything that's done?
We will, can we get Micah to dial it in for us over on Oakwood Lane? We'll work on that, and if you'll just share your contact information, I think we have that. But we'll get that to you just as soon as we get it.
That'd be perfect.
And then that way you can share it with the neighbors as well.
That'd be great, because we're
Yes.
not on meeting call. We all get together and talk. Thank you. Thank you. I know.
All right, is there any other comments or questions or concerns, or anybody want to thank the water, sewer, public works, electric department for doing a good job? Or? All right, well, if there's no